All right, I think I'm live now. Hello everyone. If you're It's another live update for the progress of the Capo feature film. So, for those who are tuning in for the first time, I'm Jeremy Mullally. I'm the producer and the director of the Capo, also the writer. And the last one, I basically just wanted to let everyone know what I was essentially doing with the lives. And as we go forward, I'm going to be breaking down a couple of things around the project which brought us to today. So, for example, obviously the screenplay, the story, what we've done as far as putting together the commercial package for the film. And will be a slightly longer one only because I wanted to just break down the story. And best way to do it, we've got what's called the vision deck or the director's vision, which you see up in front of you now. And this is a really good tool to use to present to people because honestly, one of the most challenging parts of, uh, I suppose, talking about a film is the fact that you're talking about it. Film being a visual medium is difficult to explain to someone, even just as simple as what we call like the elevator pitch or the log line, can be really challenging. You're trying to condense a a story that runs for roughly 90 minutes or so into a short conversation of 5 seconds. So what I love about what you're seeing right in front of you, the vision deck, is it allows you to at least distill a bit of the imagery and get some of that I suppose mood across. Like another word we might use is like a mood board for something like this. So I'm gonna sort of be talking through this. It's not a formal pitch the way I would pitch it to an investor. However, it's a really good breakdown of the story. So yeah, without further ado, I'm just gonna get into it if it will let me. Right. So this is the log line. So it starts with Alexander. So shocked by the untimely passing of his father, talented pianist Alexander sets out to uncover the reasons behind his father's death, only to find himself at the center of a brutal homicide, an attempt at the perfect murder. So, for those who are familiar with the perfect crime, it's the crime in which you escape detection. There's no evidence leading back to the perpetrator. That's essentially what from a story angle, from a plot angle, this film is really about. It is someone, Alexander, he's a young university student, has a real strong passion for the piano and for music, but he's also studying law. So he gets wrapped up in this concept of committing the perfect crime, and in this case, the perfect murder. Being in a very vulnerable state after losing his father, a very emotional state, he becomes really fixated on it, being an obsessive person, and starts to formulate this idea of committing the perfect murder. Now, it doesn't come from nowhere. As we'll go through this and we talk a bit about the story, he's under heavy persuasion and heavy manipulation by the character who is the main antagonist, who's Professor Priestley. So, just a bit of the background of the film. Like, I came about this idea quite a long, more than 10 years ago now. I realized it's an idea I had very early on when I was at university myself. So when I was studying film and TV, I can literally remember sitting in the Curtin University library, just sketching out a couple of notes on the film, and it was a very loose idea back then. And the although it's evolved now, the premise was always around that idea of the perfect murder and someone actually going forward with doing that. And I drew very heavily from uh, film and literature that I was consuming at the time. So I remember at the time, like, for those when we talk through the story, it won't be a surprise. I remember reading at the time "Crime and Punishment" by Dostoevsky, and that was uh, sort of a gateway for me into that type of literature, which is that existential literature. And from there, the films I was watching at the time as well. So I mean, even we've got um, that still there, which is taken from Taxi Driver, which itself is also based on, well, at least loosely based on Crime and Punishment and other works of Dostoevsky, like Notes from the Underground. So uh, Taxi Driver had a huge impact for me. It still stands today as if not one of my favorite films, easily in my top 10 films. So Taxi Driver by Martin Scorsese, and these themes of existentialism, especially ideas around mortality, which of course Alexander is moving through after losing his father. It's something that um, especially people who are going through that period of finding out who they are and who their identity is. So that period, especially when you've left high school into your university years, and arguably right up into your late 20s, discovering who you are, and also coming to questions of what's life all about, what's the point of it. So all these sorts of ideas and themes are bubbling on the surface and sort of form the foundation of what Capo is. So you'll see in the story itself, and then also in the texture of the film. So what we're actually seeing on screen, a lot of influences from this tradition of existentialism, like stemming back from Dostoevsky, and of course Nietzsche as well, which we'll see. So just to go over like the basic synopsis of it. So from the outset, we start at the beginning of the film finding out that Alexander's just recently lost his father, and he is in a deep place of contemplation. So not only like what I was saying before, this contemplation around who he is, what's the meaning of life, what's his purpose in life, but he's also very facing some very material challenges as well. Him and his mother are trying to recover from the tragedy, and then also losing their father, who was their stability, figuring out literally like how they're gonna stay in the same house, how they're gonna make ends meet. So that's something that's central to at the beginning of the film. Alexander was at the start studying law, and that was mostly encouraged by his father, who was also a lawyer. So he's now also deciding, do I continue down this track of studying law? Is it something I'm actually passionate about, or is it something I'm just doing to please my father? So he decides to continue those studies, and in this state of confusion, he meets our main antagonist, who is Professor Priestley. I'll get a visual up because we'll go more into him. But Professor Priestley is the main antagonist of the film, and he is a retired detective, or a private detective, I should say. And he is he's lecturing at the university which Alexander studies for, and he's lecturing for criminology. So Alexander meets him in this state of being very vulnerable, and in a state where he is questioning he's even questioning uh, uh, the circumstances surrounding his father's death. And Professor Priestley takes him under his wing, and he leads him down this dark and dubious path. And this is where he gets to that moral hypothetical that we are talking about before around the perfect murder. So it's this idea of, are certain heinous acts, including theft and murder, permissible in overcoming obstacles in order to achieve greatness? So it's this idea of the great man. And it also goes back to that concept of, if no one's looking, why do good? So Alexander himself, he lands on this idea of committing the perfect murder, and the central question of the film is he going to commit it, and is he going to get away with it? At the same time, being a pianist, he also meets what I'll consider the lighter mentor in Dion. So Dion is a renowned pianist who's achieved great success in his life, and he's also trying to overcome a death of his own, the death of his husband. And in meeting him, Alexander comes under the purview or the mentorship of Dion, not just uh, from an artistic point of view as a pianist, but also guiding. He's a guiding life in this really troubling time in Alexander's life. So centrally to the film, the question is: will Alexander succumb to these dark passions of committing the perfect murder, or will he be able to overcome his demons and rediscover his own humanity? So again, like in this deck, you'll see some visuals just like we see from here, and these are just touching on that kind of visual component of the very gritty kind of look that we're trying to achieve with this film. You'll recognize some of these from The Godfather. Again, really great film series, which has influenced me greatly as a filmmaker, and a lot of these from Hannibal as well. And for those who are a fan of the NBC Hannibal show, which a lot of these stills are taken from, you'll recognize that relationship of manipulation that is at play here. So Professor Priestley being this highly clever, highly intellectual, and also experienced person who is influencing someone else or multiple people to bend to his will in a very subtle way, which to me makes him among the most interesting characters in this film. So just touching a bit more on the characters. So there's roughly like 7 principal characters. I'm only going to talk about 3 today. Alexander is the central one, of course. He's how we're experiencing this film is through him. So he's following in the footsteps of his father. He's a law student, but also has this burning desire to play the piano. So Alexander's very reserved, very timid, and brooding. Um, Very alienated at this young age, and although being very intelligent, he's also ambitious. So he has these great ideas of achieving something and leaving some kind of a legacy. Now, Professor Priestley, like I mentioned, he's a retired police detective, and he's one of Alexander's lecturers at the university. And so it's in this pathway that he's able to meet Alexander and start to sow the seeds of manipulation from a very early stage in the film, and we see that how that unfolds. We've already spoken about Dion, but one other thing I'll mention is a huge thread for this whole film is the musical piece, the Goldberg Variations, and Dion's husband was known for playing this piece; was very famous for it. So he is teaching Dion how to play the Goldberg Variations through the outset of this film, and I'll touch on in another video how that structure takes place because it's actually really important to how this film plays out. Again, some more visuals from there. So that's the story from a very high level. I'm going to create some more videos just breaking it down piece by piece just to get a better sense of it. But essentially, the main question that comes to play from a theme or conflict point of view is, and it actually is in the film, in a scene of the film when Alexander first meets Professor Priestley. It goes back to you may be familiar with the myth of Gyges or the Ring of Gyges, which is presented in Plato's Republic. And at the heart of that myth, it's about a person who finds a ring, and upon discovery, he finds that the ring has the ability to turn himself invisible. Once he realizes this, this is in ancient Lydia, he dons the ring, turns himself invisible. He murders the king, and marries his wife and usurps his whole kingdom. So what the moral of that story is if nobody's looking and if you can get away with it, would you commit these acts? Would you why do good essentially? Why do good when no one is looking? So that seed is planted in Alexander from a very early stage, and he takes interest in it. So I'm going to cut it off there, but thanks for tuning in. I'll be breaking down, especially from this deck, a bit more about the film. And if, like I said in the previous live, if you know anyone who'd be interested in following this, feel free to share this. Feel free to recommend they follow or subscribe, depending on what channel you're watching on. And I look forward to seeing you again